10:17 a.m., July 12, 1943, the village of Prokhorovka. The air is an iron-red soup of dust, cordite, and diesel smoke. Inside the cramped turret of a T-34 Model 1943, Senior Lieutenant Dmitry Volkov presses his forehead against the rubber cup of his TMFD-7 gun sight. The steel of the tank is hot, vibrating with the roar of its own V2 engine and the percussive earthquake of the battle raging outside. He is buttoned up, blind save for this narrow tunnel of vision. The glass lenses are milky, the edges distorted. He strains to find the target. His loader, a boy from Saratov, has a high-explosive round chambered. Volkov is hunting a new German tank, one his briefings only mentioned in vague terms, a Panther. He sees it, a flicker of movement on the ridge, perhaps 100 meters away. It's a low, predatory shape, impossibly distant. He estimates the range, cranks the elevation wheel and shouts, "Fire!" The T-34 lurches. The shell is gone. He loses the target in a cloud of smoke from his own muzzle. "Load armor piercing," he commands, squinting back into the sight. He waits for the smoke to clear, trying to spot the shell's impact. Dirt. He missed. Too far left. He adjusts. Before he can give the order to fire again, a white-hot lance of energy punches through the air. It does not sound like an explosion. It sounds like a giant's hammer striking a church bell, the bell that he is inside. The T-34 shudders, a catastrophic, final impact that tears the air from his lungs. The world goes silent, then white. Dmitry Volkov is the only one who emerges from the hatch, stumbling, his ears ringing. He looks back at his burning tank, then at the ridge. The Panther is still there, already traversing, hunting its next target. He doesn't understand. At that range, a first-shot kill was impossible. His T-34 was a good tank. He knew its flaws, but it was reliable, yet it was blind. He stumbles toward the rear, a survivor of a new kind of warfare, one defined not by armor, but by optics. He leaves behind the smoking wreck, a physical object representing an unresolved and lethal problem. 3 weeks later, the mystery deepens, far from the front. At the Kubinka Research and Proving Ground outside Moscow, a train arrives under heavy guard. It carries trophies from the Kursk salient. Among them is Panther Ausführung D, tactical number 502, captured relatively intact by the 28th Guards Tank Brigade. Assigned to supervise the initial teardown is Senior Lieutenant Viktor Akolov. He is not a soldier, he is an engineer, attached to the GAB-2, the main armored directorate. He is a man of quiet intensity, with hands stained by grease and notebooks filled with precise tiny script. He circles the Panther. He notes the interleaved road wheels, the wide tracks, the superb, clean welding lines on the sloping frontal plate. It is a formidable machine, clearly an answer to their own T-34. His team begins the work. They measure the armor thickness. They test the steel's hardness. They analyze the 7. Ife Fimitusunt KWK-42 gun. Akulov writes his preliminary report. Armor is excellent, high-quality rolled plate. Engine is over-engineered, likely prone to failure. Transmission is complex. He is unimpressed. It seems like a typical German over-design. Then he climbs inside the turret. He settles into the gunner's seat. It is surprisingly comfortable. He puts his eye to the sight, the Turmzielfernrohr 9D. The world outside the hangar door, a muddy yard, a line of birch trees, 100 meters away, snaps into focus with a brilliance that stops his breath. The image is vast, bright, and sharp from edge to edge. He can see individual leaves. He can see the texture of the bark. He feels a cold knot of dread in his stomach. This, he realizes, this is the weapon, not the gun, not the steel, the glass. What Akulov couldn't yet comprehend was that this small tube of glass and metal would not just change the war, but would force Soviet industry to rewrite its entire philosophy. The scale of the problem is laid bare in the dry, numbered reports arriving from the front. GAB-2 After-Action Report 43-8-19 from the Voronezh front. T-34 tank crews of the 1st Tank Army report significant difficulty in engaging new German heavy tanks, Type 5 Panther and Type 6 Tiger, at ranges exceeding 800 meters. Our TMFD-7 and PT-47 sights provide inadequate magnification and a restricted field of view, making target identification and accurate ranging problematic. German tanks are consistently opening fire at 200 meters and beyond, achieving a high probability of first shot hits. Our crews are forced to close the distance under heavy fire to achieve effective range, resulting in unacceptable losses. This is the cold, factual foundation. The Soviet Union is winning the war of production, churning out T-34s by the tens of thousands. But it is losing the war of engagement. A T-34 is faster, more agile, and far easier to produce than a Panther. But tank duels are not battles of maneuver, they are battles of observation. The Lomo factory in Leningrad, the historical home of Russian optics, is under siege. Its skilled technicians have been evacuated to Kazan, but they are struggling. The priority is quantity. The sights must be simple, rugged, and fast to produce. The PT-47, for instance, is a copy of a 1930s Vickers design. It is functional, but it is not a precision instrument. Its lenses are often uncoated, gathering less light and producing significant glare. The cemented doublets used to correct chromatic aberration are of inconsistent quality. The result is a milky or foggy view, especially in poor light. The German optics, by contrast, are the product of Zeiss and Leitz, world leaders for decades. They use rare earth glasses, complex multi-lens systems, and, critically, anti-reflective coatings that Soviet industry cannot yet mass-produce. Those technical details translate into human suffering. For every dry report citing inadequate field of view, there is a T-34 gunner like Ivan peering into the gloom of a Ukrainian dawn. He squints through the narrow circle of his sight. The world is a grey, distorted blur. He is effectively blind. He knows the enemy is out there. His commander head out of the hatch screams a direction. 3 o'clock! Ridge line! Ivan traverses the turret. He sees nothing. Just shapes. Is that a bush or a tank? The air in the turret is foul with the smell of sweat, oil, and fear. He waits. He prays. Sight start. Then the impact comes. A flash of white, and the world ends. Sight 3. His fate is sealed not by a lack of courage or even a lack of armor, but by a lack of clarity. He never even saw his enemy. This is the human cost, the hopelessness. Morale in the tank brigades is a complex equation. The men trust their T-34s, but they fear the unseen. They fear the long-range snipers they can't fight back against. Exhaustion is endemic. The cold of the winter of 1943 and 44 makes it worse. Ice crystals form on the inside of the optics. The lubrication on the elevation wheels freezes solid. The German sights, filled with nitrogen and sealed, remain clear. Soviet experts reviewing the initial reports on the Panther's capabilities are dismissive. A complex gun sight is a liability. One official from the People's Commissariat of the tank industry writes in a memo, "It will break. It cannot be repaired in the field. Our system is superior because it is simple." They were trapped in a doctrine of mass, unable to see the power of precision. Experts agreed. It couldn't be done, not in wartime, not with their resources. If you find this hidden history of technology and warfare compelling, keep watching. The story of this captured machine reveals a truth that went far beyond the battlefield. Viktor Akulov is not a typical Red Army officer. He is 32 years old, thin, wears wire-rimmed glasses, and speaks in quiet, measured sentences. He was born in Leningrad, the son of a university librarian. His world is not the roar of battle, but the silent, patient calculation of light. He is a graduate of the Leningrad Institute of Precision Mechanics and Optics, LITMO. Before the war, his specialization was telescope and microscope lens design. He understands the complex mathematics of light refraction, spherical aberration, and anti-reflective coatings. He is, in essence, a man of glass, not steel. When the war began, his institute was evacuated. Titid start. Many of his colleagues, brilliant men, were deemed non-essential and were swept up in the first waves of mobilization. Most did not survive. Site 3-5. Akulov was spared, assigned to the GAP-2 to troubleshoot production flaws in existing tank periscopes. The context that shaped him was one of profound, tragic irony. He was a master of a craft his own country had deemed a low-priority luxury. He is driven by a cold, intellectual fury. He knows that the Soviet Union has the scientific minds, but lacks the industrial will. He reads the casualty reports from the front, and unlike the generals, he doesn't see a failure of tactics. He sees a failure of engineering, a failure that he, personally, is supposed to fix. He is meticulous, stubborn, and trusts only what the data tells him. Back in Hangar 4 at Kubinka, Akulov has a moment of discovery. He and his team have carefully disassembled the TZF-90 sight. It is laid out on a clean white cloth on his workbench, a collection of prisms, lenses, and finely machined brass. He is holding the primary objective lens up to the light. It has a faint, bluish-purple sheen. It's coated. He knows what this is, a magnesium fluoride vapor deposition coating. It's a technology he's only read about in German scientific journals from before the war. It dramatically increases light transmission. He measures the components. He reverse engineers the optical path. It is a binocular sight, but it's articulated. The gunner uses one eyepiece. But the sight itself provides a variable too, 5x magnification with a 28-degree field of view, or a 5x magnification with a 14-degree field. His TMF D7 has one setting, 2, 5x with a 15-degree field. The German gunner sees twice as much of the battlefield with a brighter, clearer image. The crazy idea forms. They must copy this. Not just the dimensions, but the quality. He brings his findings to the Kubinka commandant, a grizzled infantry general. "Comrade General," Akulov says, "this sight is the reason we are losing crews. It allows the Germans to fire at 1,500 meters. We are blind until 800. The general scoffs. "Lieutenant, do not tell me about tactics. We build tanks. We have the best tanks. The T-34 is the finest in the world. This is a trinket." Akulov, "It is not a trinket. It is the decisive component." "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." the general snaps. Your job is to test, not to design. Write your report and move on. The Chelyabinsk factory has a quota. Akulov knows a formal request will be buried. He decides to act alone. He will conduct a test that no one can ignore. Akulov needs an ally. He finds one in Sergeant Pavel Orlov, a veteran T-34 gunner assigned to the Kubinka Test Battalion. Orlov is a man of few words, with eyes that have seen too much. Sight start. He has survived the destruction of 3 separate tanks. Sight 3. He is cynical, pragmatic, and hates German tanks with a deep personal passion. Akulov finds him in the motor pool servicing a T-34. Sergeant, Akulov says, I am told you are the best gunner on this post. Orlov just grunts. Akulov continues, I have a German sight. I believe it is better than ours. I need to prove it. Orlov's eyes narrow. Better? How? It lets you see, Akulov says simply. That night they work in secret. Their setting is a disused firing range at the far end of the Kubinka complex, backed by a frozen marsh. They don't have a Panther. Instead, they use a T-34 testbed, its turret mounted on a concrete block. Akulov and Orlov, with the help of a baffled welder, spend hours modifying the gunner's station. They must fabricate a new mounting bracket to attach the TZF-90 sight to the T-34's 76mm gun. The mechanisms don't align. The German engineering is precise. The Soviet mount is crude. The welding torch spits blue fire in the cold night air. The smell of ozone and damp earth fills the small workshop. Akulov is meticulous, using calipers and shims to ensure the sight is perfectly parallel to the bore. Orlov watches, his skepticism slowly turning to curiosity. It is very complicated, Lieutenant. Yes, Akulov replies, his eye pressed to the bore sighting device. They believe clarity is worth the complication. They finish at 3 a.m. The hybrid turret looks like a monster, a piece of German precision crudely grafted onto a Soviet workhorse. The test is set for dawn. The air is still grey and freezing. Akulov has set up targets, 2 derelict truck hulls, one at 900 meters, one at 400 meters. First, the control. Sergeant Orlov settles into the gunner's seat. He uses the standard TMFD-7 sight. He squints. The 900-meter truck is a fuzzy silhouette. The 400-meter target is an invisible smudge. Range 900, he mutters. He fires. The round kicks up snow 20 meters to the right. He adjusts, fires again. A hit. The 400-meter target, Akulov instructs. Orlov traverses. He squints for a full minute. Comrade Lieutenant, I cannot see the target. It is just grey. Now, Akulov says, use the other one. Orlov slides his eye over to the rubber cup of the TZF-90. He is silent. Akulov waits. Sergeant? Orlov finally lets out a sharp breath. My God, it's like the sun came out. The world through the German sight is bright, wide, and incredibly sharp. I see it, Orlov whispers. The 400-meter target. I can see the hole in its radiator. Akulov, scribbling in his notebook, engage. Orlov's hands move with a new confidence. He lays the reticle's fine triangles on the center of the distant truck hull. He fires a single shot. A second later, the sharp clang of a direct hit echoes across the frozen marsh. Orlov leans back, his face pale. He looks at Akulov with a mixture of awe and anger. Why? He asks, his voice thick. Don't we have this? Akulov has his proof. If stories like this fascinate you, stay with us. The next chapter of this quiet revolution was not fought on the range, but in a meeting room, and it might surprise you. 2 weeks later, Viktor Akulov is in Moscow. He stands in a wood-paneled conference room at the People's Commissariat of the tank industry. The air is thick with smoke. Seated around a long table are the men who run the Soviet war machine. Factory directors from Tankograd, party officials, and grizzled generals from the Gabitu. Akulov is a nobody, a junior lieutenant, and he is deeply out of place. His report, co-signed by the Kubinka commandant and featuring Sergeant Orlov's sworn testimony, sits in front of each man. The room is silent. A factory director from Chelyabinsk, a powerful man named Zaltzman, breaks the silence. Lieutenant Akulov, your report is troubling. You claim that a single piece of German glass is tactically decisive. This is defeatist. Another general leans forward. We are producing 100 T-34s for every 10 Panthers. Quantity is its own quality. You are asking us to retool our entire optical industry to chase a German ghost. It is fantasy. The skepticism is a physical weight in the room. They see him as a naive academic, a man who doesn't understand the realities of war production. Akulov's hands are shaking, but his voice is steady. He is an engineer. He will give them data, not passion. Comrades, he begins, I am not a strategist. I am an engineer. And these are the facts. The German TZF-9D sight has a 2.5x magnification setting with a 28-degree field of view. Our TMFD-7 has a 2.5x magnification with a 15-degree field of view. The German gunner sees twice the battlefield we do. His lenses are coated. They transmit 75% of available light. Ours, uncoated, transmit 50%. This is not a trinket, Comrade General. This is a 10-second gap. He points to his data. In my tests, Sergeant Orlov, a veteran gunner, acquired and hit a 400-meter target in 11 seconds with the German sight. With our sight, he could not see the target at all. At 1 Zoseren meters. This 10-second gap is the difference between a kill and a grave. We are not losing to their armor. We are losing to their eyes. He looks directly at the Chelyabinsk director. Sight. Start. You ask us to build more tanks. I ask you, why build tanks that cannot hit the enemy? We do not need to copy their complexity, but we must copy their clarity. If we do not, we are simply sending our crews to their deaths in faster machines. Sight 3-5. The room is silent. He has not accused them. He has just presented the unassailable, terrifying facts. The meeting ends with no conclusion, but Akulov's report is not buried. It is sent to Stalin himself. The real test in combat is not a single event. It is a slow, powerful tide of change. Akulov's report and the data from the captured Panther becomes a catalyst. The GAB-2, now armed with irrefutable proof, issues new directives. The Soviet optical industry is shaken from its complacency. The immediate result is a crash program. Soviet engineers, including specialists from the relocated Litmo, descend on the TZF-9D. They don't copy it, they adapt it. They simplify the design, remove the complex variable magnification, and focus on its two most important features, the wide field of view and the coated lenses. The result is the TSH-16 sight. It is still a 4x fixed power sight, but its field of view is 16 degrees, and its lenses are, for the first time, properly coated. Summer 1944, Operation Bagration. We are in the turret of a new T-34-85, a tank born from the hard lessons of Kursk. The gunner is not Sergeant Orlov, but a young man just like him. He peers through his TSH-16 sight. The world is clear. The image is bright. He scans the horizon. He is part of a massive armored thrust, and the Germans are retreating. A German anti-tank gun, a PaK-40, is hidden in a tree line 200 meters away. The crew is frantic, trying to bring their gun to bear. But the T-34-85 gunner sees the flicker of movement. He sees the shape. It is not a blur. It is a target. He lays the reticle. Fire! The 85mm gun barks. The shell crosses the 200 meters and impacts directly on the gun shield. A plume of smoke. The AT gun is silent. The T-34-85 rolls on, not even slowing. This is the proof. A GAB-2 report from late 1944 quantifies the impact. The introduction of the TSH-16 sight on T-34-85 models and the 10T-15 on the new IS-2 heavy tanks has increased first-shot hit probability by an estimated 20% at ranges over 1,010 meters. Akulov's 10-second gap was closing. The immediate consequences were profound. The Panther 502 at Kubinka was tested to destruction. Its armor was shot at by every gun in the Soviet arsenal. Its engine was run until it seized, and its optics were reverse-engineered and became the foundation for an entirely new generation of Soviet sights. The report on the testing of the German PZKPFW-5 Panther tank became a foundational document for Soviet engineers, but the long-term effects were even greater. The Red Army, victorious in 1945, rolled into Germany and captured the source, the Carl Zeiss factories in Jena. The Soviets systematically dismantled the factories. They did not just take the machines, they took the technicians, the blueprints, and the chemical formulas for the optical glass. The T-34-85 and the IS-2, equipped with optics inspired by German design, had become the true masters of the Eastern Front. The lesson had been learned. Brute force was not enough. Precision was a force multiplier. The post-war Soviet optics industry was not just rebuilt, it was created anew, founded on the captured German technology. Viktor Akulov, the quiet engineer, was never celebrated as a hero. He was a composite figure, representing a dozen real, anonymous engineers. He received a minor commendation, the Order of the Red Star, for technical innovation. After the war, he returned to Leningrad, to his ravaged but reopening institute, Litmo. He became a professor, teaching a new generation of students the science of light. His name and his crucial contribution was buried in classified files for decades, his legacy living on, not in monuments, but in the clear, sharp lenses of his students' microscopes. Today, the supremacy of battlefield optics is an unquestioned doctrine. Thermal images, laser rangefinders, and satellite-linked fire control systems decide conflicts from miles away, often before the human eye can even detect a threat. But this multi-billion-dollar industry of seeing the enemy first traces its direct lineage back to that quiet hangar in Kubinka. It traces back to the moment an engineer, a man of glass, looked through a captured piece of German engineering and felt a cold knot of dread. The captured Panther, which now sits silent at the Kubinka Tank Museum, is more than a 45-ton machine. It is a monument to an uncomfortable, universal truth. Sometimes the greatest obstacle to victory is not the enemy, but the stubborn refusal to admit the enemy is better at something than you are. Innovation is often an act of profound and dangerous humility. It is the courage to admit failure, to study a superior foe, and to adapt. The lessons learned from that TZF-9D site are now embedded in technologies far beyond the battlefield. They are in the surgical microscopes that allow for operations of impossible delicacy, and in the giant mirrors of deep space telescopes that search for the edges of the universe. The concrete firing pad where Akulov and Orlov held their secret test is long gone, swallowed by the forests around Kubinka. But the principle they proved, that clarity is more powerful than steel, still defines the future. Every great idea begins as an act of defiance against impossibility. What impossible ideas do you think could change the world?